slides, that'd be great, so that they actually reflect all the brilliant ideas you had. So we've got Marc Baldwin. I know that he can do Java, Android, Kotlin, Objective-C, Swift, development, design, and I think he's a trained Scrum Master as well. So pretty much covers everything. Currently working at Forcom, and the only information I can find out is that you're on GitHub.
Yeah, keep a low profile.
That's good. He's going to talk about his application and lean personal projects. So yeah, thank you.
So yeah, this is probably, your talk was probably the hardest talk to follow ever, because everyone is going to be going, wow, you did that completely wrong. So please be kind. So my talk is called the Lean Personal Project. It's kind of a play on words of the Lean Startup, which I kind of took a lot of inspiration from when I started this project. So I recently just read it, or read it for the second time maybe, and I decided that I was going to try and do it a bit better than I had beforehand. So yeah, it's talking about making something in my free time rather than for my full-time job. That's kind of the difference that way. So it'd be nice to know how many of you actually have a personal project that you're currently working on. So if you could put your hands in the air. Wow, that's quite a lot of people, so it probably makes this talk worthwhile. So how many of you have released a version? So you put your hands up again. Good job. Yeah, that's really interesting. And I wonder how many projects you've thrown away or forgotten about. Just you? Yeah. Cool. So yeah, me too. I've probably worked on like 10 projects in my piece. So the goal of the talk is to, wrong slide, help you get to release. So when you don't release stuff, it's kind of a waste of all these things. And it's a real shame, because you're probably putting a lot of time into these, and you're thinking about them all the time, and also your time. You could be doing better things. So that's the goal of the talk. Hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. So this is the thing I made. I was going to show you a demo, but Chris, I forgot a cable. I will remember that next time. So here's some screenshots. So basically, I really like cycling. And I really like statistics and things like that. So I developed this app so that you can overlay the route that you've been onto an image and see some statistics. So this is what's currently in the App Store, and it's by no means complete. So what you do is you basically connect to your Strava account, which is a basically like a sharing website for cycling and running, etc. It pulls down all your activities, you select one, and then you can overlay the route, add some start marker or finish marker, where you took the photo, and then some statistics. So that's how far you went, and that's how much elevation you did. And you can give it a name, and you can make it bigger and smaller and do other loads of cool things. So this talk, I'm going to talk about those things: what to build, Kaizen, which basically means continuously evaluate what you're doing, being productive, staying motivated, and the most important one, releasing. So firstly, what to build. It sounds super cliche, but it can be more true. In your free time, you need to work something that you're passionate about, because when you come home from work or you're really tired, or someone says, do you want to go and get a beer? You're always going to say yes to those things over working your product if you're not passionate about it. Don't confuse passion with a belief of success. And I've been guilty of this before. So I thought I was passionate about what I was working on, but I wasn't. I just thought it would be successful. And there's a huge difference there. So working on this product, I already wanted it because I wanted to start sharing those pictures with people. But previous products where I've worked on, like monitoring stocks, I'm not passionate about that. And eventually it gets chucked in the bin. Build something that at least provides value to you. So again, assume like no one is going to use your product. It kind of sounds a bit depressing and pessimistic, but it could well be the case. So ask yourself, if no one uses this, can I still get some value from it? So that might be, you know, you only use it, or does it provide a technical challenge that you can learn from it or show it off in an interview, or can it lead on to something else? build something new. Like, don't waste your time rebuilding things that other people have made. Like, if you think you can build the new Facebook or Instagram in your free time, you're very, very misguided. I don't think you can. Sorry. But building new things, you get to deploy all your skills. You get to be innovative. You get to come up with the new designs. Like, how are you going to do it? You get to solve all the problems. It's way more fun than just taking something what someone else is doing and trying to make it better. Again, sorry, this is pretty pessimistic, but hard work and perseverance doesn't guarantee success. And that, I think that's actually a quote from the Lean Startup. It's true, like the movies kind of sell you this idea that you can sit in your bedroom and bust out projects and you'll be rich and famous. It doesn't work. Hence why I still work at Forcon. Again, build it, they might come. Just because you build it doesn't mean people are going to use it. And don't build the wrong thing. This is the most important thing. If you can take one thing from this, it's that. Yeah, I'll talk about that after this slide. Also, I've kind of learned that building something small is way better than building something really big. If you can't do it in 3 months, try and get it down to something you can do in 3 months. So going back to this guy, don't build the wrong thing. So Velographic did not start out how it looked a minute ago. It started out as a infographic of all of my cycles over a year. So like how far I'd gone, how many days I'd been on the bike, like what country I could get to if I'd accumulate all those miles in one day, things like that. And I used fake data. I did it all in Photoshop, produced an image, and then I sent it out to like 20 of my friends, and everyone was like, yeah, it's all right. And I was like, oh, apparently people don't like statistics as much as I do. So I went, okay, so I kind of like dropped it, but I thought like maybe I was on the right track with it. So then like I was talking to people and I share my rides on Facebook and nobody really cares. But when I share the images, people kind of go, oh, that's cool. Like, where did you take that? So I started thinking, yeah, I could take the Strava data, which I care about, and my cycling nerds care about, and those pictures which normal people like, and maybe put them together. So I did that. So rather than, you know, building the app straight away, I just faked it. I just opened Photoshop, got my image, got the map data, and just traced the route onto the image in Photoshop, and then just shared it with Facebook. And loads of people kind of got excited about it. So I got this. Someone actually said, which app are you using to make those snazzy overlay photos? And I was like, awesome. I was like, I made it with Photoshop. And yeah, I got some really cool feedback. Like straight away, it'd be cool to see where the photo was taken on the route. That's either a really cool overlay or a scarily big snail. Someone actually said that. But it was really cool because it kind of validated my idea. Way better response than the first idea. But I could have easily gone away and built the wrong thing, but I didn't, luckily. So test your idea, so important. You can build a prototype or you can fake it, like use Photoshop. You know, if you're going to build a dating app or something, don't, you know, something that requires thousands of users, you need to find a way of being able to like get something working and just get a few people using it. So yeah, so when you've got that idea, you need to decide whether to pivot, which is what I did with my first design. I changed it or continued. The second time I continued. So early feedback validated my belief that Velographic could be successful. Knowing this, I was ready. So I'd read this Lean Startup and I decided I was going to do it properly this time. So build an MVP and release. Get feedback and incrementally improve. So what did I do? I spent a month designing a scrambling sentence. And it's actually scarily true. I kind of did do that. I haphazardly built features which kind of had low value. I kept changing the UI of like the home screen and things like that, which weren't really important. And I didn't do the hard stuff. Like I didn't do the OAuth or connecting to Strava or anything like that. So I couldn't release. And people kept asking me, when is your app going to be ready? And there's this one guy who just wouldn't leave me alone because he wanted it so much all the time. And he wanted it for Android and I was building it for iOS, so he never got it. But this was what I respond with. I've been super busy. I haven't had time to work on it. Actually, that meant I've been wasting time deciding what shade of black the setting screen should be. It's really easy kind of to lie to yourself about what you've been doing. So I had a realization. This kind of came out of having a Scrum training at work, and I kind of realized the error of my ways. And I was kind of sad because I thought it was going to be really awesome after reading the Lean Startup. I thought I was the boss, but it turns out I wasn't. So I've done it again. I wasted time on low value features. I avoided the hard tasks. I didn't get feedback, and I hadn't released. So the rest of this talk is how I changed what I was doing and I actually released something that's mildly successful. So you can't improve what you don't measure. I don't know who said that. It wasn't me. Way more intelligent than I am. But it's really important. This is basically the Kaizen thing. So I made a promise to myself that every Sunday I'd evaluate how the week went to make sure I was doing the right things. So I started off by looking at my version control history and looking at the commits. So I commit really frequently, so I can see exactly what I'm doing. And I realized that I get distracted so easily. I just kept switching between random features, like fixing little bugs, tweaking the UI, or just being like, I'm just going to refactor the whole of this thing and start again. And I had like a to-do list at the time, but it wasn't ordered anyway. It was just like, I need to do these things before I can release. So I kind of just picked them at random, and I got bored on one, so I start another one. But yeah, I wasn't really making any progress. And I kept adding things without really investigating their value. So like, you can't see it, but I spent ages like building this like tiny little clock, and it's so crap, and I'm so ashamed to have made it. So after that, I read this somewhere. I can't remember where I read this, but it really rang true. So focus requires knowing what to work on and then having the peace of mind and time to do it. And like, I'd say read it again because it takes a little bit of time to really see the meaning there. So what to work on and then having the peace of mind and time to do it. So the first thing is what to work on. So beforehand, I was going, yeah, I'll do this today or I'll do that today. I wasn't prioritizing them based on value to someone. So this is the first thing I started doing that really made a difference. I took all the tasks and I went, right, that's the most important one. That's what I'm going to work on. And I'm only going to work on that until it's done. And then I'll do the next one. And every time I did something, I then reprioritized all the others. If I got some feedback from users, I then reprioritize them. And because I always worked on the most important tasks, I actually began to make real progress. And what I started doing was like, if I worked on a feature, there'd be UI problems that would come out of it or like little bugs I'd find. And rather than get distracted and working on those, I just make a note of them and then put them into the list. And then I could prioritize them. So even though the feature was like 95% done and had like a couple of bugs, I'd be like, that's going good enough for the time being. But that allowed me to get more feedback. So I kept a working version on my phone and I showed it to my friends. And I also shared the images on Facebook and Instagram, which meant I could get more feedback. So yeah, quite often people are like offering features like left, right, and center, which is really cool. So every time they did, I put it in Asana, which is a basically like a to-do list, and you can heart things, which is quite nice. So I could see which things people had actually asked for. And basically the result of all of this was that my list was now being prioritized by users, like future users of this app. And that kind of leads into this massive feedback loop, because now that I'm working on valuable features, I can share those features, get feedback, which in turn motivate me to carry on working on it. And I realized the motivation is productivity. If you aren't productive, you won't be motivated, and also vice versa. The other thing is get feedback. Should be like every second, ideally, but you can't. So every week, like try and get to a point every week where you can release this product or at least show it off in a good state or share the results of that. Like just share designs on Facebook. So again, these are legitimate things people said on Facebook. You can go and find these. So can you get the app to allow me to enter a mileage and time? That's a really cool feature. Loving the overlay, looking good. cool, I'm getting some feedback, knowing I'm going in the right direction. Looks so good with the showing where on the route the pic was taken. Really like this version, looks awesome. And this one in the middle is the most important one. When are you going to let me use it? Again, I'm getting feedback that people actually want to use it. So get me motivated. So having the peace of mind and time to do it, the second part of that sentence. So peace of mind basically means, like, can you work on it without distraction? And that's really difficult when you're doing it in your own time, because there's so many distractions. There's like my girlfriend who gets annoyed every time I sit down on my laptop. There's like social obligations and everything else. Doing anything else other than working, basically. So this is like one of the hardest things to try and do. I think I put the phone in the wrong place. Yeah, so I used GitHub's punch card to work out when I was doing work, and it looked like this. So basically I work on it really late at night, or like kind of early in the morning, and sometimes on Saturdays between 4 and 6. But yeah, that was kind of nice. I could go, oh, okay, that's actually when I kind of do my work. So then I started planning it around. So I say, okay, I'm going to go climbing here. So when I go climbing, and then I'm like, oh, okay, when I get home from climbing, I'll do some work. And I'd kind of say to my girlfriend, you know, if I just do an hour now, then I'll promise I'll spend some time with you. Just get off my back. I want to make something. Yeah, so it's really important to plan your time, but obviously you need to be flexible with it, because there's going to be days when you just don't want to do it and it's not worth it. So keep the motivation by, yeah, putting it to the side every now and again. The other thing I did was tag tasks, and this again played back into being productive, because it looks something like this. Like bugs there, which is a bit of a shame. But I'd say things like, oh, this is a bug, or this is a UI tweak. And I worked out that from this, that I'm really good at fixing bugs in the morning and good at working features on the weekend. So then I could plan things. So I could say, oh, cool, this morning while I eat my breakfast, I'll fix a few bugs and do some UI tweaks. And then this Saturday, it looks like it's going to be raining. I'm not going to be doing much. I'll crack on with that feature. That really helped me. Again, I estimated the top 5 tasks, and mainly why I did this was because of importance. Because if I went through the estimate, like blew through it, I'd question its importance. And one thing that I dropped because of this was the ability to edit a graphic like once you'd already made it, which proved to be really difficult. So in the end, I just dropped it, I removed it, which is really annoying because I spent so long on it. But when I released, it's like no one's asked for it, so it's probably a good thing. So yeah, build thin slices, also known as you ain't gonna need it. So people like, I know people who start personal projects and use an API like Strava, and they go, I'm gonna build the entire Strava API before I even do any of my own work. And it's moronic. You don't need to build every API endpoint, if you just use one. I only use 2. I use give me all my activities and give me more info on that activity. Whereas if I built the whole thing, I'd probably still be doing it. And again, like, don't build the entire UI if all you're doing, like the settings screen. I don't actually have a settings screen anymore. I still don't need it. But I spent ages deciding what it's going to look like. So accountability. I wouldn't have done this presentation if you hadn't made me. And this is a prime example of like how accountability works really well. Like, if you make promises to yourself, you won't keep them. If you make promises to Alec, you will, because he chases you up.
Everybody's promise is okay. Just find someone else. If they don't do a presentation, then yes. But
so my accountability was mainly my girlfriend and kind of my friends to a certain extent. But my girlfriend nagged the hell out of me. Like, when's it going to be done? When's it going to be done? And I'd be like, soon, calm down. But having that kind of makes you question, like, oh, I've been spending ages on this. I really should get it to a point where I can release. Automate. If you haven't got much time, you have to automate. And like, this is the only way you can kind of succeed. So some examples. I can validate everything still works in less than 30 seconds by running all my tests, which is awesome. Like at work, our release plans like months, or regression was months anyway. I can generate screenshots for every device, frame them, create a new release, and upload all the metadata to iTunes Connect with one command. And if you haven't used Fastlane tools, use it because it's amazing. Again, this saved me so much time, and it didn't take that long to automate this process. If people don't know what these are, so when you upload your app to the App Store, you have to provide screenshots, and you have to do that for every screen size. And then if you want to add like some text at the top, you might have to do it in different languages. So if you do like 6 device sizes, 3 screenshots times 4 languages, that's a lot of screenshots. It takes ages. So now on testing, so I used to be like really into testing and like you must test everything, but now I go only test what's important or what changes. And actually, most of my testing is it goes through my app and takes screenshots, and then I just check the screenshots look right, because it's way quicker to do that than write the code that checks everything's in the right place. So you can kind of like do good testing that isn't proper testing. Analyze everything that you do. So one thing for me was my build time, just gradually crept up to 2 minutes, and with a little bit of work, I got it down to 12 seconds. And when like I work in 25-minute cycles, when you're spending 2 of those compiling, and I'd probably compile like 3 or 4 times a loop, I realized I'm spending a third of my time just waiting for it to compile. Now I'm just spending like a tiny amount of compiling. Again, when you're doing stuff with networking requests, like every time I want to test something, you have to wait for the network request. I have to navigate those screens. It ends up costing you time, which you think is negligible, but adds up. So again, I just created macros to skip all that and just go to the bit I wanted. And this thing here by XKCD is awesome. So it works out whether it's worth automating based on how much time you save and how long it took you to automate. It's so good. So my one was like, I'll use the pointer, sorry. I think it was there. So I could spend 4 weeks automating that. It took me like a minute, probably. So this is something I started doing at the end, and the reason I did this was just because I liked seeing that I was making progress, and it kind of fed back into that like motivation for keeping like working on it, etc. So I just took a screenshot every time I did a new feature, and I just blitz through all those screenshots and go, "Ooh, sweet! I actually did some work." Yeah, I think it's really cool idea. These are some things that you should go and read. So the power of small wins is really cool. So apparently, if you make tiny progress, it's like a super motivational boost. It's in the Harvard Business Review, and yeah, it's really good. I'm not going to repeat it. The Lean Startup is a lot of inspiration. It's power of small batches. So again, that's kind of like you ain't going to need it, and the thin slice approach. So just build little bits of your product rather than building the entire thing in one go. So like, rather than building all of the API, then all the persistence, then the UI, just do one cut through all 3 things, and it basically you find all the hard problems early on, and it just makes it so much better. And you don't waste time building things you don't need. And Kaizen is the self-evaluation thing. So release. Oh yeah, before you release, add analytics. But eventually you must release. Otherwise, you'll just be, apart from this guy, you'll have to have your hand up when I ask you, have you released? But if you don't release, then it's not worthwhile. And I think eventually you just get so demoralized about the fact that you haven't released and it's been like 3 years that you, in the end, you just move on. And I think the reason people don't is that they can find endless excuses not to. Like, you can add more features, you can finesse the UI more, you can always refactor code, but does it give you value, and is it worthwhile doing, and can you release regardless? And I think the biggest one, and I think this is ringing true for me, was that until you release, you haven't failed. The project hasn't failed until you release it, and then no one uses it, and then you go, oh, I did fail. So I think that's why a lot of people put it off. They're scared that when they do, no one's going to use it, which is sad, but it probably won't happen. If you release earlier, more likely to have people use it. But yeah, I think I said this. So the longer I went without releasing, the more I doubted what I was doing and whether it was worthwhile. And I actually aimed my release to coincide with the Tour de France. So I had like a really good idea of every day the Tour de France. taking their route and putting it onto a picture so I could use that as a promotion. I completely missed it, which is really annoying. And then one day I just went, fuck it, I'm going to release this Sunday. And I had loads of bugs still. I had countless like out of memory issues I hadn't even looked at. And like, yeah, loads of features I hadn't added. But I just did it. And people used it and they made their own pictures, which is awesome. These are the ones I found on Instagram that people just happened to use the hashtag, which was cool. Apart from the middle one, which my girlfriend did. But yeah, it's really cool to see people actually using it. And you'd be surprised at how forgiving users are of new products. Because, let's quickly, oh, screw it, put that in the wrong place. Yeah, so even though the app crashed, features weren't complete, people didn't moan about it, and people just went, oh, that's really cool. So yeah, even if you do release it and only one person uses it and you get one piece of feedback, that's far more important than you just slogging on a product that you haven't released or got any feedback on. I wish I'd released it earlier. How to release it earlier? So it's okay to have a minimal set of features. You know, you can just keep adding stuff in, but there's a point where you just go, that's enough. So it's okay to support one platform. So mine's only on iOS at the moment. There is an Android version in the works. It's okay to support iOS 10 only. I did start with iOS 8, but every time I hit a hurdle, I just went, screw it, just bump it up. And then I was iOS 9, and then when I can do something easy, I just went iOS 10. So you're targeting like 90% of people, no, 50% of people there. Sorry, that should be iOS 9, sorry. 85% or something, and then that is like 95%. But there's no point targeting those last 15% until you've got something you know a lot of people want to use. Yeah, I release with their own issues. I let the users find them. It's okay to release with bugs. Again, let users find them. It's easier than you trying to find them. And yeah, well, that's pretty embarrassing. 170 crashes for 85 users. And it's like, I test the hell out of this thing. Like, how did it crash so much? It's depressing. Apparently, I'm not that good at programming. But I fixed them in 3 days. I fixed them straight away, and I released a new version to the App Store, and in 3 days, they're all fixed. So releasing early means less work. And why does it mean less work? Because you get feedback, and you can drop features left, right, and center that you thought you needed, but you probably don't. So these are some of the comments that I got in the App Store. So interesting idea, but fix the bugs. Be good to resize and move the overlay, which you can actually do. They didn't know it. So that kind of made me realize I need a tutorial. So there is no tutorial. Can I change the color of the route? That's a really good idea. Can I tell it where the photo was taken? Yes, you can already do that. How do you not know that? And I can't see my rides from before last month. So again, MVP, I didn't do loads of work about allowing you to get to the bottom of the list and then it load more. So it just loads the last 10 rides that you've done. That's why you can't see them before last month. Like if I did, I couldn't see like 5 days ago. Again, it's fine. When people ask for it, go and build it. It's not hard to do. So yeah, I mentioned about adding analytics, and this is what I got out from my analytics. So 20% of daily users created a graphic, which is quite interesting. 95% of those that created it shared it directly from the app, which is awesome. So people aren't just using it, they're actually sharing it with their friends. A large percentage use the start finish photo markers, so I knew that was a worthwhile feature. All these things here on, and I spent ages doing them, like adding, so you could share it to Twitter, adjusting the font size, adjusting the depth and opacity of the route overlay. No one uses those, so I wasted time doing them. I could have just released it without those, and it would have been fine. I could have released a month earlier. So it kind of goes to show sometimes that you make assumptions about what users want that don't really, that aren't true. That's really cool. So people that started making a graphic actually finished it. The mean distance that people share, that create of the graphics is 108 kilometers. I think it's like 70-ish miles. So it looks like people are using it, go on quite long bike rides. Again, 95% changed the title. That's worthwhile, but I could probably could have released it without that. And the number of graphics created by user is increasing over time, which is really interesting, which means people are using it and coming back. So the median is 2, the 75th percentile is 7, which is pretty cool. So takeaways, it's not enough just to have an idea, you need to be passionate about it and you need to validate it before you start building. Keep motivated, work on what matters, work in small batches, prefer small frequent releases, build in analytics from day one so that you can then make informed decisions about what you're going to build next, engage with your users, fix all the bugs and stuff, because I did put so much work into it at the end. So it's nice to just step back from it. But then as people started asking more for like new features and things, I got excited about it again. And the thing I'm working on at the moment is the ability to like pitch the route so that it becomes 3D, so you can see the elevator. Then you will. If you're not, you'll just kick it to the side.
Yeah, I know you said the most important thing is to be passionate about your idea and things like that. But would you have any tips on like monetizing your app? Like, sort of, how would you go about that? I know it's not really the most important thing, but sometimes.
I mean, yeah, like so you want to get some reward from it, don't you? From the time that you put in, if you're sacrificing hours. But yeah, that's something that I'm not really, don't have much experience with. So yeah, I charged for the first release, even though it like crashed on people and I felt really bad. But and I purposely haven't really advertised it because I want to like add in new things like the tutorial and a few other things before I do like a real push for it. And I hope that because people are using it, I might be able to charge for it and do okay from it. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't really have that experience.
When you were getting feedback from your users during development, before you released, how are you getting that feedback?
Mainly by like having my phone and going, "What do you think?" And so they could use it. I was really bad, and I kept saying to people, "Oh, yeah, I'll give you a version," and I just never did it, which is kind of lazy and a shame. And also, a lot of the feedback came from just sharing the images because it is a sharing. Also, you make things and you can share them easily. A lot of the feedback came back through that. So I just get it from Facebook comments or people send me a message on Facebook being like, "Oh, what are you using to do that? That's really cool." But yeah, I wish I'd like used something to distribute it out and got beta testers because there was enough people like who wanted it and just didn't set it up. I don't know why.
Yeah. If you're going to do it again and start from scratch, what would be the one feature you would do to release it?
I would literally just make it so photo overlay release. That's all I would do. I'd do nothing else because that's all the most important thing that you need. And it's enough that people can go, "Yeah, this is cool," or "No." Everything else is kind of like, is nice to have. Obviously, I think there is a point there where you go, adding these extra ones in does transform it from being an okay product to like a really nice product. But I think you can start building your user base earlier and get people talking to their friends about it, like, "Oh, have you seen this?" And like if people get used to an app that continuously changes, they will come back anyway because they're like, "Oh, I wonder what's new this time."
Did you come across anything whilst you're building it that was kind of similar to what you were doing? Like another app that did something similar to
Yeah, like Strava, the thing that I interface to, changed the way that they share their cycle or your activities, and they had it so that you can share the picture with a bunch of statistics at the bottom, and that actually happened like halfway through development. I was like, "Oh, that's cool that they've done it finally," but kind of annoying to me. But I kind of progressed because I had the route overlay as well, which kind of distinguished what they had to what I had. But yeah, I think it's a danger sometimes of when that happens to be demotivate to a point that you just go, "Oh, screw it, like someone else has done it, I can't be bothered." But again, if you have passion for it, you can be like, "I'm going to make it better." But
Out of all the different side projects ideas that you've had, what made you pick this idea out of the other ones? How did you make the decision of which one?
I think this one was just because I was so like I just wanted it because I wanted to like create these images or like mementos of my rides so that I can go back through them from past years and look at them and go, oh yeah, I remember that. Whereas I didn't get that when I just look at a map. I can't remember where I'd been or like what happened. Like quite often when I'm out on my bike, like weird things happen and you just like snap a picture of it. Like just see weird animals doing things or just like a random guy just stood in the middle of the road just doing something weird. I'm just like, that's weird. But yeah, you don't get that from looking at your Strava activities. They all just look the same and they're all boring. So for me, it was like I wanted this. I wanted to take that and put them together and so I could remember it. I guess.
Does it assume you take a photo at some point on that ride?
Yeah, so you can't. What it does is you could use any photo. So like if I took a picture of the floor right now, I could associate it to a ride I'd done 2 years ago. It doesn't prevent you from doing that. Like someone suggested that'd be cool if when you open the app, it was smart enough to go, oh, that picture was taken at this location, which matches one of the rides you've done, and like already put it together. And then you can just customize it, which I thought would be really cool. Oh no, it figures that out based on the GPS coordinates. Yeah, but if you haven't turned your GPS on, then you can't show where it was taken. I think that's why that comment was there. So probably someone's taken a picture on a ride that didn't have GPS data, and that's why they haven't been able to show where it was taken. So again, one of the things that was on that list I showed you earlier was like the ability to manually tell it where it was taken to account for those edge cases. No, it's just pictures at the moment. Yeah, videos would be cool though. It'd be cool to see a little line going around the route as well. Something. Yeah, so the one that was really interesting was that gotta get some slides. Yeah, these two have multiple photos. So based on that, I kind of infer that people want to share more than one photo. So there's something again that I can add in. The other thing is that people clearly don't know to move it around, like this guy and that one, I think, and that one to an extent. So like it automatically just places it like one on top of the other, but you can actually move them around and you can make them bigger and smaller. But people clearly don't know that you can do that. They just keep them to the defaults. That's why I kind of decided that I want to put some tutorial in.
How did you get your build time down to 12 seconds?
So I'm using Swift, and it was operator overloading. That was the killer. So I was using a constraint library, and it was just terrible. So I ripped out the constraint library and moved to a different one. Yeah, that was like the majority of it. The other things were like creating dictionaries of different types. So because it has type invariance, Swift, that's what took a lot of time. So if you explicitly say this dictionary is of this type, it like cuts minutes off your build time in some cases. Again, I can give you a link to that if you're using Swift. Yeah, that's really interesting.
How would you approach new features? So you said that try and release early and then do incremental features. How would you test? I know you've got user feedback, but how would you go about validating that? So I've heard, I think maybe Alex said it before, from Lean Startup. I think they had like a page with a button on it, I think it was, and they just had analytics hooked to it.
Yeah, the idea is that you can put a feature onto an app or something, it do nothing, and then you just measure how many users try and use that feature.
Yeah.
And then if there's a significant amount, you can go, oh, looks like people do want to share to Twitter, and then you can implement the Twitter functionality afterwards. So
So like one good example of this would be I'm supporting Strava, but there's other services out there like Endomondo. So I could put a connector on the Endomondo button, and when you press it, it just says, "Oh, thank you for registering your interest. This currently doesn't exist." You can be notified when it does exist or something, and then decide that, oh, okay, enough people have pressed that button to warrant building it in. But with other features, it's a little harder. I think maybe what I would do is go to like a cycle club and say, hey, look, I've made this app. Do you guys mind using it? And telling me what you think and offer suggestions or something like that. But again, it's really hard to do because like for me, I was just worried that people would go, oh, this is crap. And so I was scared. And I think often like the things that you should do are the things that you're scared about doing to an extent.
How do you decide what tasks you can do in the morning given their size? So if you've got, there is a bug with X, that could take anywhere from 5 minutes to 5 hours.
Yeah, like interestingly, I estimated it in terms of how many Pomodoro, like 25-minute slots I thought it might take. And I like did a thing a while ago where I was like, I wonder how accurate I am. And I'm like really accurate with it. So screw story points. You use actual times, you can be accurate. So yeah, like I break them down to be small enough that I think I could do them in like 25 to 2 hours mostly. Yeah. Velo graphic. You can get it on iPhone. You can't get it on Android. When I get back to it. I don't have a laptop at the moment, so I can't even if I wanted to, sadly. Yeah, I've done like the core of it, which I should release based on what we've just been saying. Yeah, hopefully with Android soon. Yeah, that is something. So one of my friends is like really into cycling and is a developer, and at one point we were going to sort of work on it together, but it just really never happened. And I think part of it is because we have like, I guess, different schedules, and there wasn't that much time to be in the same room and work on it together. Whereas like products that you do at work, because you're all in the same room, it's easy to work on it. And I think that's why personal projects remain personal, unless you full on commit and be like, right, we're spending the weekend doing this together, which sometimes you just don't want to do. But yeah, it'd be like, for instance, the Android version. I've got 2 Android developers that I work with that have free time. You should get them to do it.
It's a terrible pitch for them.
Yeah.
You've got your free time, spend it with me.
Yeah. Phil looks overwhelmed with excitement about that.
Have you opened the weekend and go? Or is it private?
It's private, but I can invite people to it to see it. Yeah, it's built mainly in Swift and using RX Swift. Yeah, I actually tried to like limit how many dependencies I had on third-party libraries. I kept getting burnt by them. Like, I wanted something, or there was a bug, and then I have to wait for it to be fixed, and it's frustrating at times.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, oh great, thank you.
Thanks.
So we take a 5-minute break. If there's any more pizza, we eat it. If not, have a drink.